Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dark Hour 717, and this is the weekly news review for the week ending 30th of July. This is where we'll be going over the latest news and information for the last week in Star Citizen, and we have quite a bit to go over this week. But before we get into it, if you like these updates, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. Helps me out greatly with the YouTube algorithm, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, stick around to see how you can get entered in for a chance to win an exciting vehicle from the Star Citizen universe. As I mentioned, this week we got quite a bit to get through. We did not see a Star Citizen live this week, but there is still no lack of information and items to discuss. This week we have quite a bit to get through, as I said, though we did not see a Star Citizen live this week, but there's still no lack of information and items to discuss. We start off, of course, with patch 3.17.2, and in the beginning of the week, we were still testing in the PTU with this latest patch, hanging on the video clip seen on Reddit of Chris Roberts stating 7 to 10 days till release. We saw the PTU continue on with daily updates being pushed through Wednesday evening, and as each day progressed, we continue to see slight improvements, and overall, the time we were waiting for this patch was welcome to a degree, as it meant that they were continuing to improve and smooth the patch out for a better experience. Wednesday, it was announced that depending on the next 24 hours, if all went smooth, we would see a release on Thursday to the live servers. On Thursday throughout the day, we continued watching with no further update until an announcement was made that an additional hotfix was going to be pushed to PTU. This many took as a sign that no patch would be released. But lo and behold, at approximately 8 p.m., the live patch was pushed to the servers. Right off the bat, there was definite excitement, but as everyone tried getting on, we saw a large issue with connectivity and the fact that a large number of users were getting a 16,008 error, and were unable to even get to the menus. This continued on for a length of time. After continually spamming the launch, I was finally able to get into the game though. The problem persisted for quite some time, and they announced that the issue was related to a back-end issue that they were working on correcting, and asked that people cease trying to do character resets as it would not fix the issue, going as far as shutting down the ability to even reset. This issue was able to be worked around by some through the use of a VPN over to the UK area. Eventually though, this issue was corrected about 3 hours after launch, and this was just the first of two problems. As everyone was logging in when they could, players began checking AUEC balances, as we were to get a stipend based on playtime of 3.17.1. It was quickly discovered that the level of AUEC and stipend was way higher than could have ever been imagined. Thinking along the lines of the 125,000 AUEC that we saw with the patch of 3.15, it was discovered that this was not the case. People began reporting anything from 1 million AUEC for an alt account of one of the org members that was not used at all in 3.17.1, to reports of over 160 million AUEC by some players. This, of course, was a huge surprise to all, as it had been posted the stipend for playing 3.17 would be generous, though no one imagined it would be to this level. Jokingly on stream that night, I had actually made the joke that tomorrow we're going to wake up and find out it was all an error. Well, come to find out later the next day, it was just that. With a post by Jake Acapella, it was stated that there's been an error in the calculations and the amount of AUEC distributed ended up being higher than planned. Also that they would be exploring some options to amend this. Of course, this brought up the big question of how would they amend the error. It did not take long for the salt to begin flowing in Spectrum, though most posts were players just asking that they leave the AUEC where it was. An additional message came out on Friday night from Jake Acapella stating that AUEC would be adjusted, stating that the error had incorrectly distributed the stipend at a rate 10 times what it was supposed to. Also that they would be rolling out a correction that should be reflected in the AUEC later that night. As they do realize that this would introduce some discrepancies with AUEC earned right at the time of the beginning of Siege of Orison, that those who logged in between the start of the event and the time of the announcement will receive the payout for the event. Jake also stated that instead of just performing an additional wipe, as it would introduce a service disruption, they were able to rectify funds and wallets by performing a server-side update. Jake also went on to say that as they are aware some have already spent the money in part or in its entirety, accounts found to have excessive numbers of purchases well beyond their original intent will have items exceeding what they deem as excessive ship ownership will have the overages removed. An example given is someone that bought 5 hammerheads may log in and see that they only have 1 now. At the tail end of the update post, he does state that the original intent was that the stipend would see someone that logged, say, 100 hours of gameplay would have enough AUEC that they could actually pick up something like the Avenger Titan in game. This means that the original intent was similar to what we saw with patch 3.15. The intent was never to give someone the ability to immediately have a 10-ship fleet before their first mission was done. This does not surprise me, and I was honestly shocked when I saw that I was originally given 28 million AUEC. Since then, I have logged in and I am now showing an AUEC balance of 20,000 AUEC, which seems to be the point that most everyone in the org is at, as well as many other backers. Of course, this also introduced an ion level of anger and frustration on Spectrum, many claiming bad communication from CIG, failure to adequately play and develop their game, and statements of incompetence on CIG's part. These are all extremes and reactions that are absolutely excessively harsh for the situation. For something that was a simple error noticed and corrected, just as any company or entity has the right to do when they discover an issue, their communication in regards to the situation was not lacking by any means. The fact that a calculation error happened is unfortunate, but by all means perform a correction. We were all informed and made aware that there would be a wipe with the latest patch. So these are not funds that we ever had to begin with, and to adjust and correct the situation leaves us in no worse of a position than if it had never happened at all. Now, while editing this video and after a couple of revisions, thank you Xylo, I'm happy to report that as per Xylo's post from Saturday at 6:49 Eastern Time, all players, regardless of the amount of time spent in 3.17.1, will receive a 1 million AUEC stipend. This is to compensate for the lost progress and AUEC that the error had caused. This will be issued this coming week as not to stress the wallet services over the weekend. The post also goes into a number of issues originally stated in Jake Acapella's post as to the payout being 10 times what was expected, but also goes into more detail as to why they decided to not just perform an additional wipe, stating, "We identified that it would take 24 hours of downtime to do full account resets that would correct everything optimally, and that is if all went well. However, our priority was to minimize disruption and avoid taking the live services down for that long. Instead, we opted for an alternative AUEC correction, which we thought we were able to perform quickly while the game was still live. We conducted some tests on internal servers and found that the program ran in just 10 minutes. Yet once we deployed the fix to the live servers, we found it took far longer than anticipated at nearly 12 hours. Simultaneously, this process exposed a variety of miscellaneous bugs in our current system that we have been plagued by in the past but didn't know why they happened. Good news on that front, this debacle actually allowed us to identify the source of some of these issues due to the wallet service being far more stressed than normal. The second bit of good news is that these issues will not be present in our new system that will roll out alongside Alpha 3.18, which has vastly upgraded services in a database scheme that is built for high data for both reads and writes. Next, we discovered a critical bug with our fix that caused some players to have their in-game currency reset when logging. This one was just as frustrating for us as it was for you. Fortunately, this issue has now been resolved, and our team is monitoring closely for any edge case issues that pop up. We should be in the clear though, knock on wood. Now, I do want to commend CIG on this action and sincerely say thank you. This is more than an adequate solution on top of what they had already planned on doing. Though as I have said before, CIG continually has to deal with no-win situations. As the decision to put out a million AUEC compensation for all players, there are still those that have to negatively attack CIG. With posts not happy with the resolution, upset as to the fact that players that did spend some of the incorrectly applied AUEC are going to be allowed to keep what they had purchased, or at least a portion of it, they see this as an unfair advantage. The angry posts continue with getting into feeling that every wipe should include a compensation or stipend for dealing with bugs, or that any stipend should take into consideration total time in game across all patches and not just the most recent, and feel CIG is doing a disservice with this more than reasonable compromise, which again goes to the point that for CIG there is no winning. I will say a large number of people posting though were appreciative in this gesture. The AUEC issue is a small hiccup in the road through development, and same as all others will pass. My hat's off to CIG as patch 3.17.2 as far as playability has been amazing. Not perfect by any means, as we still have some issues intermittently with elevators at Orison and New Babbage, as well as occasional ships spawning in off the deck and in the air. Party launch system is still having issues launching a party simultaneously, as well as intermittent infinite load screen. Generally, these bugs that are occurring are not game breaking and are but a mere annoyance. The gameplay is smooth, the missions are plenty, and the progression is working great. We only encountered one bug when running Siege of Orison, and that was on the final lieutenant failing to spawn in. This was not the case on all the servers and seems to be random. I think that this patch is going to do very well to carry us through patch 3.18. Along with this patch, of course, we'll be seeing Siege of Orison as well as Jumptown 2.0 running over the next couple weeks. Starting this weekend with Siege running for 48 hours through Sunday, and then a daily alternating pattern of Jumptown, then Siege of Orison. There'll be a small break between the two events, but for the most part, they will be running one after another through the 10th of August, when we'll actually get another 48 hours of Siege of Orison again. Along with these dynamic events, we will also see available the limited ship sales for Siege of Orison and Jumptown, with the Hercules A2 and C2, Ion, Inferno, Mercury Starrunner, Buccaneer, Cutlass Steel, Cutlass Black, Nova Tonk, Cyclones, TR, and AA, the Ursa Rover, the Valkyrie, the Hammerhead, the Vanguard Warden, the Arrow, and the Anvil Spartan, all being available for sale, and of course new with patch 3.17.2, the straight-to-drivable Anvil Centurion. The new Centurion is available with a war bond for $95 US and a standalone price of $110 US. Of course, LTI is part of the Warbond package, but this also brings several packs available as well, with the Killzone Duo pack with a Ballista and a Centurion, a Ground Militia pack with all 3 Atlas frames, and a Tonk and a Cyclone TR as well as an MT. Individual paints are also available for the Centurion as well, and I'll have a deeper look at the Anvil Centurion later this week. This then brings us to our normal sources of information. On Monday, as always, the standard This Week in Star Citizen was released, followed on Tuesday by the July Galactopedia update, with 20 new short articles and 1 full-length article. Of course, those that are into the lore, I recommend you check this out. A link's going to be in the description. Wednesday, we did not see a roadmap roundup update, as it is an off week, though we saw the announcement of the Test Universe champions, with many people winning awards for their contributions to the testing of the game and contributions in the issue console's reporting system. Congrats to all the players mentioned and who won awards for their efforts. Thursday, we saw the Q&A on the Anvil Centurion get posted, and this really takes a look in depth to the newest drivable vehicle. This touches base on questions about its speed, radar capabilities, and armor, as well as much more. We even find out that in the future, the ability to share target data with the other Atlas platforms, such as the Ballista, is an intended feature as well. Also, the ability is there to swap the guns out on the turrets, though remember, if you're going to go ballistic, you're going to have a massive reduction in ammo capacity. A link in the description will be available for this, as well as all the other news releases. Thursday also brought us the latest from Inside Star Citizen, which we get a look at the river creation and tools that they use in order to determine placement of the new river systems. After which, we get a short look at the Anvil Centurion, as well as they go through the purpose and use for this new vehicle. They touch base on the components as well as some of the design choices they made in its creation, and we've taken this out and tested it, and it's actually a great vehicle to drive around in. Friday, as I mentioned, there was no Star Citizen Live, but we do see the latest in jump points being released for subscribers. And in the latest edition, what we get is a breakdown of the Siege of Orison. Going through the concept and creation of the newest dynamic event, we see the decision and creation process through early diagrams of concepts all the way to what we've received with patch 3.17.2. This is followed by a Galactopedia entry on Yella, and then an expose on the secret history of Hurston Dynamics, going through the history and lore of the Hurston family and the namesake of Maria Pure of Heart Hospital. At the end, we do find out that much like the bobbleheads, we'll be seeing some additional dashboard flair in next month's subscriber flair with mini flag sets. So lots to check out in this edition if you have access. And that about wraps it up for this week's news. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the latest patch and whether you're going to be getting into Siege of Orison, and if you're enjoying it, or you're going to be more focused on the service beacons or the illegal delivery missions, or even just running around checking out old broken down reclaimers. Don't forget, you can get entered for a chance to win an exciting ship from the Star Citizen universe. Just subscribe and leave a comment here to be entered for an Origin 325A that will be awarded for the month of July on August 1st. Any comments that are left after the 31st of July will automatically be entered to win the new Anvil Centurion with LTI. Also, you can get a second entry to double your chances by heading over to Twitch and follow over there. You can also catch the streams here every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the merch store, the Patreon, or even hit that join button above for a membership for as low as 99 cents per month. I greatly appreciate it, and it's what allows us to do the giveaways back to the community. I want to thank you all again for checking the news out with me this week, and please be safe out there, and we will catch you in the verse.